What did I miss? Brian here, and today we got another maintenance procedure for the 4Runner. Obviously you could tell the hood is up because today we are going to be changing the spark plugs. It's recommended that every 30,000 miles that you change the spark plugs. However, I got this truck when it had 63,000 miles. Now it has 92,000. So we're not sure if these had ever been changed at all or if they've been changed once. In the previous video, I seafoamed the engine, and it's known that seafoam will foul up the spark plugs. As far as I know, these spark plugs aren't fouled. Everything seems to be running normally. There's no misfires, but I feel like just for extra good measure that I change them right away. So the stuff needed to change the spark plugs are a socket wrench, a couple of extensions, a 10mm socket, a 12mm socket, a 5/8 spark plug socket, preferably magnetic, dielectric grease, anti-seize. Now you don't need a whole tube of it, you could just get a small packet of anti-seize at the auto parts store, but I have a whole tube of it, so I'm gonna go ahead and use it. A couple of gloves so your hands don't get dirty, and lastly, the gapping tool. Now it's important that your spark plugs are gapped properly, otherwise you could cause a misfire. And usually from the factory, the spark plugs come pre-gapped, and if you look in front of me, 5 of them are in a pile and 1 is by itself. And that's because the gap on this one is smaller than the rest. For the 1GR FE engine, which is in the 1st gen Tundras, 2nd gen Tacomas, 4th gen 4Runners, and FJ Cruisers, the spark plug gap is between 0.039 and 0.043. And they had a separate section where the maximum gap is 0.056. Now, for the pile of 5 sitting right now, some of them are 0.053 and 0.056, whereas this one is 0.043. Now, I tried to gap this one to 0.056, but the distance between the spark plug tip and the tab were a little too far off. Like, there wouldn't be a spark because the tab wasn't straight whatsoever. So I ended up keeping it at 0.043. One last thing to mention is that for the recommended spark plugs, it shows Denso, but right below it, it also shows NGK. I looked this up online, and it turns out that Toyota decided to put 2 brands of spark plugs in the 1GR FE engine. Not sure why they did that. I don't know which spark plug serves for what purpose, but regardless, they need to be changed. I'm going to be switching them out with all Denso spark plugs, and considering the previous owner did not take care of this truck too well, there's a pretty good chance that this engine has been running the same spark plugs since day one. And if it is, then these spark plugs are way past overdue because you're supposed to change them at every 30,000 miles. Now, I can only hope that the spark plug change goes successfully and there's no misfires. Changing the spark plugs is really simple and should take 30 minutes at most. But since I'm making a video of it, it's going to take a lot longer. Now, luckily I have the AFE intake, so it exposes the passenger side spark plugs. Usually with the OEM intake, it covers it, so you have to unbolt it and move it off to the side before changing them. So the most I have to do right now is just unhook the breather hose, and then I could change all 3 spark plugs. And one last thing to mention is you want to wait until the engine is cold. If you change the spark plugs when it's hot, you may risk damaging the threads, and also you could risk burning yourself. So it makes sense to wait until the engine is cold. And I waited about 5 hours for the engine to be cold, so we are good to go. Gloves are on, and I'm gonna remove the breather hose first. There we go. I'm gonna set this off to the side, and we're gonna start with the passenger side. I'm gonna start from the very back and move forward. First thing I'm going to do is use this 10mm socket to unbolt this bolt out and pull the coil out. pull out the wire that's connected to the coil. Then pull the coil out. Cool. I'm going to set the coil away from the engine now to pull the spark plug out, but you have to be careful because there is dirt and debris around in the engine. Unfortunately, I don't have an air compressor, so you need to be as careful as possible because once you pull that spark plug out, that piston inside is exposed to anything, and anything that falls in there could ruin the engine. I'm going to move around this hose. And there we have it. We got one spark plug out, and I'm going to fill the hole with some aluminum foil because you can shape it easily and it should prevent anything from falling into the hole. Taking a look at the spark plug, you'll notice that the tab is yellow and the tip is slanted a bit. There's a little bit of a dip on the left side closest to the tab, so it seems like this one is on its way out. So I'm going to use the spark plug that was gapped at 0.043 and insert it in this cylinder because the passenger side is easily accessible, so if there's a misfire, I would know that it's coming from this side and I could easily gap it from there. I'm gonna add a little bit of anti-seize on the threads so that the next time that I change the spark plugs, it'll be a lot easier to pull out. I'm gonna toss this glove out and then insert the new spark plug. Okay, we don't want to tighten it too much. There we go. New glove in, and I should have said this in the beginning, but you're going to need a Q-tip for this. This is for the dielectric grease. You want to get a little bit of dielectric grease on the Q-tip, and then from there, you're going to rub it inside the coil. And as simple as that. Now we just put the coil back in the spark plug hole. Make sure it's seated in there just right. Bolt it back together. Make sure that's on tight too. Then we just click the wire back in, and that's it, at least for that one. Now we have to change the rest on the passenger side. Okay, all three spark plugs on the passenger side have been changed, and I went ahead and reconnected the breather hose. Now let's move over to the driver's side. This is where things get a little interesting and a little more work is required. The hoses have to be removed, the mounting brackets have to be removed, and this little plate down here has to be removed in order to remove the bolt at the bottom of this mounting bracket. Alright, the hoses and mounting brackets are out of the way, and now we could change the spark plugs and do the exact same thing as we did on the passenger side. Only difference is we have to use both extensions because the intake manifold is in the way. Alright, all of the spark plugs on the driver's side have been changed. Now all that is left to do is to put the hoses back and bolt the mounting brackets back in. And we are officially done. All spark plugs have been changed, and like I said, the last one on the passenger side, the gap is a lot smaller than the rest. And now we're going to start it up and see if there are any misfires. And if there aren't any, then we should be good to go. Well, so far everything sounds alright. I don't hear any engine knocking or misfires, so that tells me we did everything right. I'm in the driver's seat and we have the door opening light and the seatbelt light on, but we don't have any check engine lights so far. It's revving smoothly, so sounds like we did everything correctly. I'm fairly confident that the spark plugs are all gapped correctly, especially that one that was gapped a little smaller than the rest. Everything is all done, and before I close this video, I want to show you guys something. So here are all the spark plugs that were originally in the engine. On the passenger side are the Denso spark plugs, and on the driver's side are the NGK spark plugs. So that tells me that these have never been changed before until now. I'm not sure why Toyota decided to go with two brands of spark plugs from the factories instead of just keeping it one. Maybe one side was for performance and while the other was for fuel efficiency. I'm not too sure. I went with all Denso spark plugs, but I'll have to note that these NGK spark plugs will also work too, and maybe in the future I will change to all NGK spark plugs to see how my engine runs. So that is it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you're subscribed, thanks. If you're not, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Take care, everyone. I'll catch you on the flip side.